Okay, yeah, so this is the first ZestCast of 2021, and it is actually our first ZestCast. And I didn't want to call them webinars, so it's Wake Up with Zest or the Zest Wellbeing Hub, and could be a podcast. So we thought we'd give it a bit of a different name. And what we're doing is we're interviewing our expert contributors who contribute to the Zest Wellbeing Hub. And Laura was actually one of our first contributors, and we met actually over lockdown in April last year, because Laura used to be my next door neighbour. So I persuaded her to start doing some content for us, and we've just kind of been friends ever since. But Laura's got a wealth of knowledge about aches and pains, and she's a chiropractor. So anyway, Laura, welcome. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so hi guys, welcome. My name is Laura. As Roger said, I'm a chiropractor, and I practice in Berkhamsted in Hertfordshire, which is where roughly we live. So I don't know how many of you have experienced chiropractic before. Some of you may have had it before, some of you not even know what it is. So I thought a great way to start off is just give a little sort of blurb about what chiropractic actually is, what I do. So the whole thing about chiropractic is looking at the health of your spine and your nervous system and how this affects the rest of your body. So with our spine, so front on, we should be nice and straight through our spine, straight up and down. Then if I was to turn to the side, we should have a few nice curves in the spine. So curve in the neck going this way, curve in the mid back going the other way, and then a curve in the low back going this way again. It's just like a nice elongated S shape of your spine side on. And this is basically there for giving a bit of spring in the spine, a bit of shock absorption, because the spine's whole function is to protect your nervous system. So that is your brain, your spinal cord, and all the nerves that come out of your spine. And these nerves supply everything in the body. So for your heart to beat, any sensations to be felt, any muscles to work properly, anything like that, you need to have the best messages being able to flow up and down these nerves from brain to body and back up again. But what happens these days, the lifestyle we all live in, so a lot of stress, a lot of sitting, poor posture, repeated habits we all have. This puts a lot of stress and strain on our body, which builds up over time. And this over time can lead to restrictions in the body, misalignments in the spine, which can put pressure on the nervous system and then therefore lead to issues, the symptoms we feel, such as posture issues, headaches, tensions in different parts. So a lot of the time you might have a pain somewhere in the body, but the actual root cause is coming from much higher up, which is why we really focus on the back and the spine and go from there. So yeah, so we can give a bit of advice on how to best look after your spine, but also we're working from home a lot more these days, how we can set that up as well.
So what is the difference between a chiropractor and an osteopath?
So this is the golden question, really. So when we get asked, the answer is basically right back at the very start of both professions. We started as one, we were the same profession. And at some point we split into two. Now, both of us look at the full body. We look at a really whole body holistic approach. Chiropractors, I'd say the main difference is chiropractors tend to be much more sort of spinal and looking at the nervous system aligned that way. Chiropractors take x-rays and read x-rays. And do a lot more of the sort of manual adjusting, the clicks and pops, which are quite famous for chiropractic. Osteopaths do the whole body as well. They don't take x-rays and they have a slightly more sort of full body holistic approach, slightly less manual adjusting. But you can go to either of them and get great results on major issues. So yeah, end of the day, we kind of started the same thing.
So with the pandemic, we've all spent a lot of time sitting. So what are the sort of typical aches and pains that we're all getting from our pandemic postural problems?
Pandemic posture. So obviously with coronavirus, I'm sure you're very aware by now. So a lot of us were just thrown straight into working from home very quickly. Everyone originally thought, 3-week lockdown, that's going to drag. But here we are pretty much a year later. So a lot of people certainly went straight to working from home, didn't have time to get the adequate setup, the adequate equipment, sort of no advice how to do it properly. And then time's dragged on and we've ended up with these sort of postural habits. So I've seen over the last year this massive influx into the clinic of headaches. We're seeing a lot of tightness and pain in the neck. People quite often get sort of pins and needles, numbness into the arms, a lot of low back pain, pain going down the leg if you've got a bit of sciatica, which comes from that low back pain. And just these general sort of niggles and aches and pains and sort of just feeling uncomfortable in your body, basically. So I was sort of chatting to Rach before we were talking about sitting, weren't we? And how, sitting has become this major issue. And basically, as humans, we're not designed to sit at all. So our predecessors right back in the day would have been standing, running, hunting, we would have been squatting, so in a really deep squat position when you were sort of resting, or we'd be lying flat to sleep. We would never have been at this 90-90 sort of hips and knees at 90 sitting position. And that's just because our spine and our body isn't designed for it. To go into a bit more detail about that. So in the spine, in between each bone in your spine, you have a disc. So you've probably all heard of when people said, oh, I've blown a disc, I've done a disc in, something like that. Now, these are discs of cartilage, and they act as spacers to keep your spinal joints apart and give those nerves room to move and exit. But what can happen over time is pressure down on these discs can build up and cause narrowing and dehydration of the discs. Now, the discs themselves don't have any blood supply, so to get any hydration and nutrients and keep them nice and thick and healthy, what we want, they rely on movement of the body to almost push this fluid and nutrition in. But you can imagine you're sat at a computer desk, hunched over in this position, a lot of pressure squeezing down through those discs for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, however many weeks a year. That's going to lead to a lot of compression and dehydration and issue with these discs. So that's why it's so important that we need to be thinking about not only setups, but how we can adapt our working from home setups to maybe include more standing and things like this as well.
Which actually was the next question. How do we create a better work from home environment?
Definitely. So I know you have one as well, Rachel, and I've got one at work as well. And we're massive fans of the standing desk. So standing desks, I think, are just a complete game changer in terms of working from home setups and posture. So I think we were discussing before, Rachel, that they don't have to be these crazy expensive things. Did you say you have one from, where's your one from?
Mine's from IKEA, and it cost me £215. So it's a fully adjustable standing desk, but it's a hand cranked one. And it's brilliant. I love it. And I've got all my lights clamped to it, so everything moves up and down properly, and I'm not stretching any computer leads or anything like that. But I actually spend most of my day standing, and I don't miss sitting down. I've got a decent office chair, which I went to like a proper sort of office showroom to get a proper chair, but I rarely sit on it. So for 215 quid, it has been a game changer. And plus, or before, I used to have a desk riser on top of my normal desk, and that was fine. I had that for about 5 years, but a standing desk has just been so much better.
So much better, isn't it? So to say, they don't have to be these crazy expensive things. They can be very affordable, but at the same time, you appreciate that not everyone has room. Maybe you're in just a small property, or you just don't want to make that investment on investing in a whole new desk when it might not be a permanent fix to your working from home. So there are a number of other things you can do to modify it. So it doesn't have to mean that you're standing all day long, but if you can at least mix it up and keep moving, that's going to really help the back and really help those discs. So couple of things that I recommend to patients all the time is things like you can use your kitchen worktop instead. So I have you propped up at the moment on a shoebox. So I always raise my screen to make sure it's eye level, whatever level I'm at. So raise that screen up. We can talk about sort of screen heights and bits in a minute, but make sure that screen's at a good level. Raise yourself up on a worktop, stand there for a little while before you go back to your desk. Alternatively, we all have one lying around an ironing board. So get your ironing board set up. Again, prop your screen up a little bit, make sure everything's at the right height. And again, you're just getting that body moving, you're getting movement through those discs, you're engaging that core, which is so important, because the core over time, when we're sitting all day, is just going to completely disengage. And having a strong core is basically what protects your spine when you make sudden movements. If that core's not going to kick in, it's all going to go through your spine. So sort of diversifying and using things around your house that are slightly raised, just to mix it up and break it up in the day. Obviously, there are some people that just really much prefer concentrating and sitting down when they work, and that's fine. What I tend to say to people, as Rachel has, is invest in a really good orthopedic proper chair. So a lot of patients coming in are really struggling because they're trying to work from home on a dining chair and a dining table, which just isn't designed to be sat at for long periods of time. So either invest in a really good ergonomic chair that's at the right level for you and sort of shaped to fit your spine. But otherwise, a really cheap alternative that I recommend is getting hold of just a really big gym exercise ball. And the benefit of this is when you're balancing on these balls, your pelvis has to stay pretty much in neutral. Because you're balancing all day, your core's constantly switched on. You're getting that movement that's like bouncing, you're wiggling around, which meaning you're getting that hydration to those discs and you're still keeping everything fired up. So, you can deflate them and pop them away if you don't want them out all the time. But if you are going to be sitting for long periods of time, it's definitely worth investing in something like that as a minimum to make sure you keep moving and keep everything functioning and switched on.
We did actually have a question from someone before the ZestCast asking, can you stand for too long?
I would say as a general rule, no. However, some people do find standing uncomfortable after a long period, and people quite often say, oh, my lower back starts aching, or I feel really stiff, I have to stretch out. This tends to be just due to the fact that it's got a bit deconditioned to it. So when you're feeling those aches, a lot of the time, I'll sort of kneel up so I can show you, but a lot of the time when we're standing, and then over time, when you get tired from standing, the core will get weak and give out. So you end up sort of overarching through the low back. You end up in that sort of sticking your bum out position. And the problem with this is then what you're doing is you're squeezing through the joints at the back of the spine, the ligaments are compressed and everything. After a while, everything, the muscles tighten up and you get that sort of horrible feeling that you're trying to sort of arch and straighten your back. So you then want to go down the route of looking at getting some really sort of good core strengthening. You want to be doing lots of nice stretching and just keep moving basically. Your body doesn't ever want to be in one fixed position for a really long period of time. So make sure you're shifting weight. You're taking a quick break from the computer, you're sort of hugging your knees to your chest, you're having a little move around, having a little wiggle, reset, and then get back to it again.
Excellent. Just had a question from Tim, and Tim says, does drinking more water help hydrate your discs?
It's not like a direct correlation, but if you are dehydrated, your whole body's going to be dehydrated, and that obviously is going to affect this over time. So in general, yeah, keeping yourself hydrated is going to help the hydration of the discs, but it's also, when you're more hydrated, your inflammation levels are better. So you're not quite so, you haven't got quite high levels of inflammation, which is going to help with pain. It's going to help with build-up of irritation in the body as well. So to make sure you are drinking, well done, Rach. Make sure you are drinking.
Thank you.
Regularly is going to sort of help with pain levels. It's going to help with everything. So making sure you're moving properly as well.
Excellent. So what are the most sort of common ailments that we get and why, even if there wasn't a pandemic on?
So I would say there's two main postural issues that we have. And so I would say posture, if when you're working from home, when you're doing a sort of desk-based kind of job, it all comes down to posture really, and chronic build-up of stress and strain. So we have two different postural patterns that we'll sort of chat about. So these are called upper cross syndrome and lower cross syndrome. So a very common one when you work at a computer tends to be upper cross syndrome. And this is a common posture. If I go to the side, it's this kind of position like this. So I'm sure you've all found yourself after a few hours at the computer in this position. So in this position, your chin's jutted right forwards, you kind of overextended the back of the neck, the shoulders are rounded forwards and everything's kind of come forwards like this. Now the problem with this over time is what's bringing this forward, you've tightened up through your pec muscles, which is pulling your shoulders forwards. You've gone weakened through the lower, it's called your lower trapezius muscle in your rhomboid, which is sort of stopping those shoulders coming back again. So you're really weak there. The front of your neck, the deep muscles in your front of your neck have got weak because the chin's jutted out like this all day. And then because of that, you've got some muscles at the back of the neck there called your suboccipital muscles. And these muscles have gone tight and short because you're like this, your shoulders are up high and tight. And what this will lead to is tension headaches from these muscles. These give off a lot of pain. It's going to lead to sort of chronic postural issues over time. It can compress the nerve roots. So you end up with pins and needles, numbness, tingling into the arms, weakness, and just a really sort of nasty mix. You end up with that sort of bump on the back of your neck that's quite common as well. You see a lot of people with these days as well. So it's just a build-up of stress and strain in that way. And then on the lower half of the body, we've got lower cross syndrome. And as I just discussed, that's that kind of position, if I put the screen down a bit, where you're in that kind of, you know, sticking your bum out, sticking your stomach out position. And again, with that one, so you've got weak core, which is getting your stomach to stick out. You've got weak glutes, which is not protecting your lower back, so that's causing that to stick out. You've tightened through your hip flexors and you've tightened through your hamstrings as well. So this is all just a common position. So a lot of people find that one of the leading causes of low back pain is tight hamstrings and weak glutes and weak core. So it's just this repetitive positioning over time. That's why I'm sitting on the floor, by the way, so I can show you a few different stretches as we go through.
Patrick just asked, would you recommend squatting at a lower table level better than sitting all day?
So I'd say a deep squat, working mobility into a deep squat is really important. And when I mean a deep squat, I'm meaning sort of the position where you're actually right down on your heels, sort of sinking your hips between your legs. You know, you're wanting your heels on the floor, your knees back. So you're stretching. I wouldn't say you probably want to sit in that position all day. You have to kind of build up a lot of tolerance to be comfortable in that position for a long period of time. But if you look in countries like Asia, that's how they will sit all day as they're sort of moving around. That's more in their sort of culture. So it is possible. I would say if you're working for a long period of time at a computer, you probably don't want to be in that position. But spending time in that position is great. So you can just mix it up in your routine if you're sitting, squatting, standing.
Yeah, I do that is when I do yoga. So that's a good. Yeah. Mark says, how can I avoid getting RSI in my hands and fingers?
That's a really good one again. And that is about looking at our desk setup as well. So making sure everything is at the right height, basically, which I think was one of the points we were going to come on to anyway, wasn't it? So we can have a look at those. So when we are looking at our desk setup, there's a few key factors that we want to make sure we are checking on. So first of all, we've got screen height. So the top of your screen should be eye level. And if you stretch your arm out, your fingertips should just touch the top of the screen exactly. So it should be literally arm length away from you. Top level of your screen should be eye level. Now, because we're going to have to raise this up a lot, if you're working on a laptop, I would highly recommend you getting a plug-in mouse and keyboard, because we don't want to then be sort of sitting typing up here for hours a day and bringing the shoulders up. So having that as a separate thing, that's going to keep, and basically with that, we want to keep the wrist and hand in neutral. So a lot of the time RSI comes because you're sort of moving the mouse like this, you're having to, move the wrist to type, and over time you're getting weakness and there's a lack of endurance through the tendons here. So we're going to have to work through that a bit. So making sure that where you're sitting, your shoulders are nice and relaxed down. And when you're moving and typing away, everything is staying perfectly neutral. So keeping sure that that's that desk height there for you as well. In terms of sort of sitting position, you want to make sure that your shoulders are back and down. You don't want your hip joint to be any, so say that's your body and that's your thigh here. You don't want the hip joint to be any less than 90 degrees. You want it, if anything, sort of more than 90 degrees. So whether you have a little cushion under your back or maybe like a wedge on your chair, to at least keep you at 90 degrees. You don't want to be compressing through that hip joint and tightening up there, because that's going to close everything off through the pelvis. And knees, again, you want to keep your knees at least 90 degrees or out. And biggest one probably is to make sure you don't cross your knees when you sit down. So it's a habit that's built into us all over a lifetime, and it's so hard to do. I'm the worst for it. But keeping your knees uncrossed and bent, because that can cause a whole host of issues with rotation of the pelvis and compression through different nerve roots. So keeping yourself level. If you want to have like a box on the floor that you rest your feet on or cross your ankles on, that's great, because that can stop you wanting to cross your knees. You're going to demonstrate.
I've got a.
There we go. Got your foot rest.
That's for when I do.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just having the little things in there that's just going to stop you forming those bad habits and catching yourself doing that.
Yeah. Dave says, I've had poor posture for a long time, so find good posture positions uncomfortable and very hard to maintain. Any tips to help chip away at bad posture habits?
So a lot of time, unfortunately, it is just repetition, but it's also having the right set of exercises and stretches. So with a lot of common postural problems, as we just discussed with that upper cross problem, it is a combination of weakness in some areas and tightness in the other areas. So we want to make sure we are stretching out the tight areas. We want to make sure we're doing some stuff to strengthen the weak areas, which is going to naturally put our body into that much more upright position. If those areas are tight and that's weak, and we're just trying to hold that position, it will feel uncomfortable. It will feel really, really unnatural. So it does take a bit of persistence and a bit of work. But also going to visit someone like a chiropractor and osteopath. So if you've got areas of your tension in your neck, for example, the neck's not moving properly, there's joints that are locked up. However you try and hold that neck in a better position, if it's not moving and functioning properly, you're just going to be fighting against that all the time. So having that released off and in a much better position, and they can sort of check your alignment and check your posture from there, that's going to put you in a much better state. So you do feel a lot more comfortable in a much more natural position as well. Fantastic.
Dave says, read the foot box. I've got a yoga block, which seems to work for that too. So that's great. And Thomas says, any advice on posture when you're glued to your work smartphone all day? Tech neck.
So yes, tech neck, which is a massive one. And again, that's a big contributor to this upper cross, that the chin's jutted forward, you're looking down all day, and that's going to lead to that sort of bump on the back of the neck. It's going to lead to headaches and all sorts. All I would say basically with this is the main aim is you've got to keep that neck in neutral. You need to keep that nice curve in your neck, keeping it upright. So the in posture from side on, your midline of your ear should always be over the midline of your shoulder. So if you after this call now, over the next few days, you're walking around, notice how many people you see walk around like this all day with the chin jutted forwards, and it's so common now that you wouldn't even bat an eyelid, but especially when people are driving, when people are doing different things, notice how many people are like this. And what this does over time is it's going to, instead of having that nice curve in your neck to support the weight of the head and spring, you're now going to end up with straightening of the cervical spine, which means all the pressure and the weight of the head is now being carried through the back of the sort of top of the upper back and the back of the neck there. So that's going to lead to issues. So when you're using your phone all day, I don't know where mine is to do an example, but if you are sort of sitting in a chair, try and have your elbow propped up so it's at least at eye level. You can do the thing where you sort of screen mirror onto a bigger screen, just anything that's going to keep it so you're not staring down at a laptop or a screen all day. You want to make sure that you're keeping eye level and keeping those shoulders down and back. So you kind of have to play around with it a little bit.
Cool. Good, useful advice there. And what are some useful preventative stretches that you could recommend for us?
Definitely. So I think to touch on a few key stretches that would be good to do, I think it's going to be, again, looking at these sort of upper cross, lower cross type symptoms as well. So I would say a good one we can all do, and it's a good one to start off with now. So I think what we're all finding at the minute is with all this, what's gone on over the last year, everyone's walking around with their shoulders up around their ears, where everyone's just feeling very uptight. Now, these are your upper trapezius muscles, your upper traps, which kind of very commonly hold stress through. So what we're going to do is to stretch that out. You can kind of do it along with me here. So you're going to put one arm behind your back, and that's basically just to keep this shoulder down, so stop it riding up as you do it. This other hand is going to come up and over and just contact the opposite ear. Now with any of these stretches, what you're not trying to ever do is force the stretch, but with the hand you're just going to guide that head over, away, keeping that shoulder down, and you can slightly turn the head down, and what you should feel is a really lovely stretch through the top of the shoulder here. And this is a great little reset. You can play around with it. You can look a bit more down towards the floor. You can go back more to sort of straight forwards. You can look a little bit more up to the ceiling and just gently stretch there. As I say, you're not trying to force the head over. The hand here is just literally to guide it over with a bit of gentle pressure. It shouldn't be doing that much. Now that's going to stretch through your shoulders. You can do that both sides and just keep that loose. That's going to help those shoulders come down and relax. Another great one is we're all on our computers, the arms are coming forwards, as we spoke about last time, where you're going to get tightening of the pec muscles. That's going to roll your shoulders forwards and compress everything through here. So all you need for this one is a door frame or something like this. You're going to pop arm up on either side of the door frame, and you're literally just going to take your body through and leave your arms behind. Just gently lean through, sort of step forwards. And what you want to see is this angle of where the arm meets the chest is just to increase. And you should feel a really lovely stretch across the front of the chest there. So again, with these stretches, hold each one for about 10 seconds, come back out of it, take a breath, and then you can just gently stretch into it again, see if you can get a little bit further. But you should feel a comfortable stretch. If it feels really painful, if you're really forcing it, you're doing it too much. It's little and often is better with these kind of things. Back of the neck, so these muscles at the back, and these are massive ones that are cause of tension, headaches, and feeling tight and aggravated. So the tiny little muscles at the back, and they basically connect the base of the skull here to the top of the spine. So if you feel along the base of your skull, you can quite often feel little like areas that feel really tender and sore. Now I'm going to come on to a few bits of sort of home kit later, but one bit of kit I really suggest everyone invest in is a lacrosse ball. So you can use a tennis ball, but a lacrosse ball is just a little bit more firm, but they are rubber covered, so they aren't sort of like as solid as a cricket ball. But with this is the best way I find of releasing off your suboccipital muscles. So you literally get the ball in your hand and you're just going to roll it back and forwards along those muscles. You'll find a tight spot. You can work on those for a bit, work round and just work right along the back of your head, both sides. You can do it lying on the floor and on your back and getting it under there and just sort of rolling your head backwards and forwards. Or you can just do it with your thumbs. So just get your hand up there, the thumb on the base there, and just do a nice bit of rubbing through there. That's going to really just help loosen that off. So with those loosened off, with your shoulders loosened off and your chest opening, that's going to completely counteract all the tightness here and allow everything to kind of come back and reset here. Obviously further down the line, you might then want to look at some strengthening of the muscles at the front of the neck and the lower back. That's definitely something that's better to work on with someone that's going to sort of assess you and see what needs tightening and what needs strengthening. So but definitely those stretches are going to sort of one size fits all. In terms of the lower body, some great stretches to counteract all the sitting is going to be stretching out your hip flexors. So hip flexors and part of your muscle called your psoas muscle. And these, again, being tight are really massive causes of low back pain. So to do this, you're going to go down on one knee like this. So just 90-90. You're going to keep your pelvis, instead of sticking your bum out, you're going to keep your pelvis tucked under nice and neutral. And all you're literally going to do is just shift your body forwards. So just shift your weight forwards. And you can kind of lean into this hip a little bit, and you should feel a really lovely stretch down the front of that hip flexor. You can put your arms up and lean away a little bit and really open that area up. But that is a great one if you are sitting a lot, if you are working a lot, to make sure you're keeping those hip flexors loose is going to really set up and protect your lower back. Otherwise, lying on the floor on your back, hugging those knees up to the chest, just really stretching through those ligaments in the lower back, letting your knees fall to each side, getting a bit of rotation. As a general sort of daily routine, a couple of times a day when you wake up in the middle of the day, end of the day, those are just a great generalized set that suit everyone and can just really sort of reset your posture a little bit.
Do you recommend yoga?
Definitely. So pretty much everyone that comes in to see me, I'm pointing them in the direction of either yoga or Pilates. Both amazing ways of getting some really good strength in your body. So good core strength, good stability, which is really important. But also just nice, gentle, it's no impact, it's nothing sort of going to put extra stress on your body, it's just going to give you that nice sort of long, lean muscles, open everything up, reset. So as a sport to do, or as an exercise to do, it's a really, really great all-rounder.
Fantastic. And then you've got some toys, more toys to show us as well, haven't you?
Definitely. So what I wanted to show was a few bits of just really cheap kit that you can all get your hands on, but they're just amazing things. Basically, you want to build yourself a bit of a toolkit that when things are feeling sore or stressed, that you don't just have to sort of ride through it, you have got something that you can do to kind of take control of it. So firstly, we talked about the lacrosse ball. You can get these on Amazon, they're literally sort of £5, but I would really recommend everyone getting hold of one of these. You can literally release off pretty much any part of your body with this. So anywhere in the back, I always say, to get your lacrosse ball, you want to go up against a wall. You're going to pin the ball between you and the wall, lean into it, and just roll around. And you'll find a tight spot, trigger point in the muscle, a little bit of work there for 10 seconds, and then move on. So you do that all down either side of the spine or around the back of the shoulders. You can do it into your glute muscles of your lower back. You can get up against the wall forwards. You can get it into your chest muscle. Anywhere like this, you're basically wanting to counteract that overall building up of tension in the muscles and releasing off those knots. Another great bit of kit is a foam roller. So this is a slightly fancier version. This is through a brand called Theraguns. This one's got vibration and all sorts in it, but just go on Amazon again. So a standard one. Rachel, Rachel's got a really gnarly one, and then she's got a nice standard one. So that's the nice standard
one. I bought this one. It was an impulse buy. It's horrible. It really hurts.
Really beat yourself up a bit. You can go for one of those really spiny ones.
And this one, I don't know kind of what it's made of. It's like a sort of
like a really firm foam, isn't it? Really.
Foam.
Great. Those slightly long ones are great. So you can, if you go, I would say to people with foam rolling, go on YouTube. That's your best. It looks like torture. It is like torture. Go on YouTube and just search foam rolling full body videos. There is thousands of videos on there that will take you through it second by second, which is much easier. But with that nice long one that Rachel had, a great way of, again, stretching and opening everything up is have it lie on your back with it, with your head and it going down your spine. So you're literally lying on it. Tuck that pelvis in so your low back's flat against it, and just let your arms fall out to the side. Again, just let everything open up. Get that core engaging by tucking the pelvis and just doing it that way. Or you can have it going sort of this way along your body on your back, and you can roll out through your upper back. You can roll out your legs. You can stretch through your hips. There's so many things you can do with a foam roller. There's a few, I run an Instagram, which I think we'll come on to in a minute, but on there I've got a couple of videos on how to use a foam roller and how to stretch out your whole body basically. So lots to do with it, which is a great bit of kit. So again, you can get these on Amazon for about a tenner, I think, which is fine. These will be like a couple of pounds again, but between the two, you can pretty much release off your full body in terms of muscles and tendon and ligaments. The other bit you can do is you can get, there's lots of different massage guns on the market. I think if you are looking to invest in something a bit more techy and a bit more high quality, I would definitely recommend going down. There's a brand called Theragun, which have lots of different ones. So this is their mini one. So that's like their start out one. I think this is about 170. And again, you've got lots of different power settings. I mean, if I get it showing up there, packs like quite a pretty definite punch in there, which is just going to, again, if you're having areas that feel a lot of tightness that you want to get a bit of muscle relaxation from, having something like that at the end of the day you can grab out, you can give yourself a bit of self-treatment as well, reset things, or in sort of day between meetings when you're feeling, oh God, I'm really struggling with my lower back, get your lacrosse ball out, get your massage gun out, have a quick foam roll, have a quick general stretch through your hips, and then you'll feel reset and ready for next. And then it's not going to build up into something that becomes such a big issue that, you know, you're struggling to get through the day working. You kind of got on top of it and caught it early.
So what point should we come and see a professional?
So this is a good question. So most commonly, and it's just human nature, we all do it, most people coming through the door are already quite symptomatic when they come to see me. Now, it's not too late by this point, but by this point, you've already got to a level of irritation, inflammation in your back where it's going to take quite a lot of undoing. I tend to say to clients, you should think about coming to see a physio, an osteo, chiropractor, like going to the dentist. So you go to the dentist for a regular checkup to see the health of your teeth, the health of your mouth, making sure it's staying healthy. You don't just go when everything goes wrong. Same with your back. You need to be looking after your body. You need to be checking things are in alignment. You need to be checking things are moving properly, and you're not building up areas of tension in certain areas. 9 times out of 10, when someone comes through the door and, you know, got raging sciatica or they've got massive pain in their back, it would have taken something quite silly that set it off. So people quite often say to me, I just put my sock on my back when, or I just got something out of the dishwasher and my shoulder spasmed. It's not that one movement that's done it. That's basically the straw that broke the camel's back, excuse the pun, but it's going to be, you know, you've got stress and strain in your body and the things we do each day, and say that's an inflammatory threshold up here, and over here you're getting the pain and the symptoms. This has been building up for months, if not years, of just building up and up and up. And it's got to the stage where it's so close to that inflammatory line that it's just taken something so small. So if it hadn't been that one movement, something else that day would have set it off. It pushes that over into that line. And then after that, you're stuck in this sort of pattern of, a lot of people get these periods of intermissions of a lot of pain and discomfort, then it'll feel a bit better for a while, then it'll kick off again. And you can end up in this lifetime of just constant niggles that come and go. So what you need to then do is address the root cause of it, see where that's coming from, what you can do to strengthen or stretch or, you know, release off, and get you to a nice stage where you're just floating along and you're not constantly on the edge of things going. So everyone, the lifestyles we all lead, everyone's putting stress on their body, everyone's putting stress on their spine. We could all benefit from getting regularly checked. But it's never too late at the same time. So if you have got to the stage where you are experiencing a lot of problems, it's still a great time to come and you can get yourself on the road to feeling a lot better again.
Great stuff. So just before we go, oh, sorry, I was going to talk about top tips. What are your top tips to take away? Because we're just...
Oh, yeah, of course. Top tips. So a good few things that I have found this year particularly, and things that I've been recommending to clients a lot. So a lot of you, I'm not sure sort of what your setups were originally, but a lot of you are guessing you did have a commute before this all kicked off, and now you've lost that commute. Now, I think what people have appreciated now is how much exercise they actually got from that daily commute, and how much even psychologically that commute gave them, of just a break at the start of the day and a break at the end. So what I've managed to get a lot of my patients doing is maintaining that commute, and that's obviously not traveling to London essentially, but it's a certain time of day. So say you have to be on your computer at 8 a.m. So every day, 7:30 a.m. you leave your house, you do a 30-minute circuit, you end at your house, you sit down at your computer, you get to 5:36, you shut your computer, you do that same route, or you do a different route. You make yourself do 20 minutes, 30 minutes of exercise at each end of your working day. That's going to not only get you moving, so get your body fired up, get that core engaged, get things switched on before your day, but at the end of the day, what it's going to do is it's going to give yourself that clear definition of that's the end of the working day. I don't know about a lot of you, but I've heard from a lot of friends and patients as well, is that they're finding now they're working from home, they don't switch their laptop off at 5 or 6, they're working till 8 or 9 at night because they haven't got that end of the day time that they would leave work and head home. It's just this continuous evening. So you end up just sort of staying there. So you get through a whole day of 8 till 8 and you've barely moved more than 20 steps. So it's making sure you're trying to do things like this. It is investing in things like this, which don't have to be expensive at all, but are meaning that every day you're chipping away, you're doing something that's going to better your posture and better your health. It's the usual ones. It's making sure you're getting all the water in. It's trying to get out and exercise every day, hit those 10,000 steps, and just keep nice. And I've just got that one as well. Yeah, the Fitbits, that's another great one, which actually is a point just reminded me of. So whether it's a Fitbit, whether it's just on your phone. I would say if you're in the middle of working and you're sort of working quite intensely, have an alarm that goes off every 30 minutes. And this alarm isn't necessarily, if you're in the middle of something, it doesn't mean you have to get up and go and do a load of star jumps and off on a walk. It just, that alarm goes off, you stand up, you stretch out, you do a couple of gentle stretches, you know, reset your posture, you have a little move around, get a wiggle, and then when you sit down again, you know, you're engaged again, you're in a better position, because over time you get engrossed in something at work, and over time, over those hours, you end up more and more like this. If you're just regularly having a quick break, you go and grab a glass of water, you don't even have to leave your computer, you can just stand up, have a stretch, pull your knees up to your chest and do it. So as you said with the Fitbit there, having those little reminders that just something pings and you think, oh gosh, yeah, I need to stand up, at the time ran away with me, break things up. Or you might want to do sort of 2 hours sitting and then an alarm goes off and you think, right, I'm going to stand for 2 hours now. Have those sort of clear reminders throughout the day that's going to keep you moving.
Yeah, I've actually found just doing 10 minutes of yoga every day. I'm a fan of yoga with Cassandra, not Adrienne, but she's got like a 30-day thing, a 30-day program, and it's just 10 minutes a day. And it's amazing. Since the beginning of the year, I just feel so much better.
It is just fitting those things in the day, isn't it? It was quite easy to think, oh, we don't have time to work out today, but it doesn't have to be a whole hour of, you know, running or doing something like this. It's literally just fitting in where we can, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. And that really pays off dividends in the long run. Excellent.
So before we just go to questions, I just want to say thank you, Laura. So if you want to follow Laura on Instagram, her Instagram account is @LauraSophieChiro. So I'll put it in the chat box in a moment. But we do actually have quite a few of her stretches on the Zest Wellbeing Hub. So if you're a member of the Zest Wellbeing Hub, so don't forget to log in. We've got loads of resources on there. If you've lost your login, then just email me hello@wakeupwithzest and I'll give you a new one. Sorry, wakeupwithzest.com. I'll give you a new one. And so has anybody got a question that they'd like to ask? So if you want to unmute yourself or put it in the chat box if you're shy.
Yes, sorry, I have got a question. You mentioned earlier on about tight hamstrings and having issues with your back, and I have tight hamstrings because I'm rubbish at stretching, and I've got a weakness in my back. And you know, long story short, last year I was sort of bedridden for about 3 days. I've never had pain like it. I know I'm a guy, so apologies to all you women out there that would have just carried on. But do you have some simple exercises that help with stretching a hamstring? I find even just sometimes sitting down cross-legged, and if I just, my hamstring on my right leg just wants to, it feels as though it's going to pop.
Yeah. I mean, tight hamstrings are very common, and again, it is a bit of a symptom of a lot of sitting and a lot of sort of those kind of things in that position. A lot of the time, just stretching the hamstring is only going to get you so far. So you can do, you know, the standard stretch where, you know, you stick one leg outside in front of you and sink your hips back and stretch that, or put it up on a chair. That's only going to get you so far though. So a lot of time, weak hamstrings are caused by, tight hamstrings are caused by weak glutes. So if your glutes aren't firing up and kicking in, that's causing, meaning all that movement and leverage is having to go through the hamstring. So exercises like, you know, your bridges, so you lie on your back and you've bent your knees up and you push your hips up so your body's in a line, really engaging those glutes. Squatting is great, but if you sort of be mindful if you've got bad knees or anything like that, those kind of things. So I'd say bridges are a great one for glutes. And you can do lots of work with banded type stuff. So I'm seeing I've got this band here, but you can go on Amazon and get just, you know, those sort of round circular thick
yeah my daughter's got those. Yeah,
brilliant. So those are great. So you put those around just above your knees. You're going to lie on your side and do sort of clam style exercises where you'd have your knees bent, your feet together, and you're going to sort of open that top knee out and really squeeze through those glutes. Those kind of things. Have a look on, again, YouTube is such a great tool. So have a look on YouTube for glute strengthening exercises, hamstring stretching exercises, stretching through those hip flexors. You want to sort of look at it as a whole approach as well. Work a little bit on the core. When I say work on the core, try and avoid crunching and sit-ups. We want to be thinking things more like planks and exercises called dead bugs, which again, YouTube is quite a good little
okay, brilliant. Thank you. Appreciate that.
No worries.
Anybody else got a question?
There's one thing on the chat there. What's that one here?
Oh, do you recommend supplements or additions to your diet that help with joint or cartilage health?
Definitely. So, I mean, you've got your glucosamine, which is always one that's just renowned for joint health as well. I would say overall in the body, taking regular sort of magnesium is great. Again, that's all something we're slightly deficient in, which can really help that. Fish oils, again, fish oils like omegas are really good for inflammation. So you want to keep your inflammation down. Taking those regularly. I would say just getting a balanced diet in, though, a balanced diet in lots of different colours of fruit and vegetables. Mainly a fruit and veg based diet. You can have meat and fish as well, but make sure it's try and lack processed stuff. Cut the sugar down, cut the dairy sort of down. Don't have to completely remove it, but less of it. Yeah, so things like processed carbs, sugars, things like that are very pro-inflammatory in the body. Lots of alcohol is very pro-inflammatory, so that's going to aggravate things and cause more issues over time. So having a low inflammatory diet, and then supplementing with your standard sort of fish oils, your multivitamins and your magnesium and bits like that are really going to help inflammation down as well.
Fantastic.
Pleasure.
Anybody else got a question?
I've got a question, if I may, please, Rachel.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, Laura. Really, really good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. But quick question. I'm just thinking about pillows when you're sleeping. What would you recommend for someone with a bad back? What sort of pillow?
So going to sleeping position is a big one before you even get to the pillow. So you want to be either a side sleeper or a back sleeper. But if you're a front sleeper, you want to really try and train yourself out of that. And that's because if you're a front sleeper, you're basically lying on your front and your head's being jarred around to the side for 8-10 hours at a time, which is put a lot of stress and strain on the joints of the neck and the nerves up there. So either side or back. I tend to say the general rule is everyone prefers something different, but if you're sleeping on your side, basically the thickness of the pillow needs to fit the gap between the point of your shoulder and your ears. You want to keep your head neutral when you're lying on your side. You don't want to be having a really narrow pillow that your head's down like this. You don't want to be having two pillows where your head's like this. Same as when you're back, you want to keep the neck reasonably neutral, going to be slightly raised, but you don't want it tilted right back, and you don't have so many that you're sort of crunching up like that all night. As I say, different people like different things. The one I use is, like Temper mattresses, the memory foam mattresses. They do a pillow called the Cloud pillow, which I kind of find some of the memory foam pillows a bit too solid, a bit too hard, whereas this Cloud one has got the support in there so you can sleep comfortably on your side or your back, but it's got a bit of give in there as well to keep it comfortable and sort of stop you going off it in the night. But there's so many different things on the market. You can get those ones with the ridges in them that support the neck thing depending on which way you sleep. But yeah, otherwise it's more about your positioning and your neck positioning and how thick the pillow is more than the actual brand itself. Another really good one as well to be doing if you are sleeping on your side is, say I'm sleeping on this shoulder here. What tends to happen is this shoulder's coming underneath me, and then this top arm where I'm sleeping on my side is coming across like this over the night and under my head probably. And that's basically compressing all this area through here. So that's a big one for people with shoulder pain. It's causing a lot of strain through the rotator cuff, and it's causing a lot of compression through those nerves. So if you're sleeping on your side, have another pillow in front of your body. So if you go on my Instagram, I've done a bit of this as well. But pillow in front of your body that your top arm is just going to rest up on. And that's going to keep the whole shoulder neutral, and it's going to stop this area closing up as well when you sleep. So nice pillow to fill this gap here. That's on that side. A pillow in front of your body that's going to get this arm resting up in neutral. And a pillow between your knees is great as well to keep the pelvis from moving. So all the pillows basically. And just cave yourself in. Yeah. Very antisocial. Yeah.
Anybody else got a question?
No, that's good.
Okay. Laura, you also do corporate talks as well. So, if any of you want Laura to do a talk for your organisation, then she does do those as well. I've put her Instagram account or her handle in the chat. So have a great evening, and see you next week, actually, because we've got another ZestCast next week, and mustn't forget to promote that one. It's all about men and their well-being, and I'll be speaking to Dave Algio, so you can register for that. If you've seen all our emails, you'll be able to register for that. So thank you, everybody, and hopefully see you next week.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.